Merchant banker John Field and his American colleague Dan Maitland, fighting a big takeover campaign on behalf of Dinslow Chemicals, are rivals to head their department following the murder of their boss Charles Makepeace. Superintendent Lance Thorne, investigating the murder, learns that John had quarreled with Charles just before his death. Also high on the list of suspects are Charles' widow Isabel, an ambitious businesswoman, and his mistress, the actress Stella Tyson. A man has been killed in demonstrations outside a Dinslow Chemicals plant. As the rioting breaks out again, John and Dan head straight into it.
You better stay in the car.
Why?
Quick getaway. No, it's your accent. I don't want to antagonize the locals.
Oh, my dear chap. You're forgetting I went to an English public school.
Morning, ladies.
No chance.
You were fond of Mr. Makepeace?
We were together. I worked for Mr. Makepeace for 23 years.
I believe you're a widow, Mrs. Novotny.
I really don't see what that has to do with it.
I'm simply trying to establish your relationship with Mr. Makepeace. Now, you seem to have been quite close to him. Now, you may have known of any enemies he had. Someone in the office, perhaps.
Well, he quarrelled with Mr. Field shortly before his death.
Did he? About what?
Mr. Makepeace said he'd make sure Mr. Field didn't get the department when he retired.
I see. So you'd say there was a real animosity between them?
Yes, yes, but Mr. Field couldn't have killed him. Excuse me, please.
How can you be so sure?
He's been getting threatening telephone calls. Someone's been persecuting him.
How long have these calls been going on?
About a year.
Did Mr. Makepeace discuss these calls with you?
Of course not.
Were they on his private line?
Yes.
Then how did you know about them?
I heard his end of them several times over my intercom.
Over the intercom?
Mr. Makepeace was an extremely busy man, Superintendent Thorne. Sometimes he forgot to switch off. He was most upset by them. If you'll excuse me.
If these calls were on the private line, they must have been from somebody he knew reasonably well.
Not necessarily. His wife could be careless about giving people his telephone number. It annoyed him very much.
His private number?
Yes. Hello? Diana? No, not just now. Look, tell Mr. Field I'll send the file along later. Yes, yes. Goodbye. Yes, his private number, but they were not necessarily from people he knew.
Do you have any times for these calls?
Well, I thought they'd stopped. They weren't only for a while, and suddenly they started again.
When was the last call?
Just before I went home on the night he was killed.
Do you have an exact time for that particular call?
Is 5:25 exact enough for you?
Anything in the will, sir?
About what you'd expect. Bulk of the estate to the wife, substantial sum to the mistress.
Doesn't that confirm the mistress's story?
Oh, not really. The will was dated last year. He may just have forgotten to change it. What did the doctor say?
He last examined Makepeace on April the 10th and told him that if he didn't give up drinking, it would kill him. Makepeace said he'd make a big effort. The doctor was under the impression that he meant it.
Diana, have a look at this.
What's the significance?
Something I picked up at the demo. John thinks it might be the name of the man responsible.
Nathaniel Mustard.
That's right. He might work for Fane and Browning.
And you want me to do some detective work?
That's right. Tall order, I know, but would you try? And we need it quickly.
I went back to the office to pick up a file about 5 o'clock. I'd left it there, needed it. Is this really important, Superintendent?
I'll be the one to decide that, sir.
Evie?
Get on well with Charles Makepeace, did you, sir?
Not many people did. Man was a bastard.
But I didn't murder him, Superintendent. And what did you quarrel about in the afternoon of his death?
Well, Ma, you've been doing your homework.
He has no alibi for either the time of the phone call or the time of the break-in.
We'll talk about it over lunch. Pull in there. You better check in with the office.
Yes, I'll tell him. Fine. The lab confirms the break into the Makepeace flat. Very likely not by a professional thief. The window wasn't locked, but it was very stiff. The intruder used an old trowel.
Fingerprints?
None. So, what about Field? It's very odd that he returned to Carsilman on the night of the murder because he'd forgotten a file.
So he said.
Then there's Sir Max's astrologer, the Indian guru. According to Field, he and Makepeace had a running feud.
And there's the wife and the girlfriend. You know what we have here, Sergeant? We have, as the French say, an embarrassment of suspects.
yes, sir. There was a message that your wife had called. Something about the weekend.
Oh, yes. I promised I'd help her buy a few sticks of furniture.
So, my weekend goes.
Yes, I'm afraid it does, Sergeant.
Next year, Pa could harvest the wheat. Tomorrow was Christmas, with oyster stew for dinner. There would be no presents and no candy, but Laura could not think... His blue eyes shone at them. Caroline, he said.
Don't call me during working hours, Millie. Is that clear?
Yes, I'm sorry.
You didn't set out to buy a house this morning.
I know, but it just turned out to be such a good buy. Anyway, I couldn't just plonk down £500,000 without knowing whether or not you liked it. Oh, honest, Lance, it will make the perfect weekend cottage.
I haven't time for weekends in the country, Millie. I wish you could resign yourself to just being a policeman's wife, because I can't settle down to being a...
Rich girl's plaything? You smug bastard. Money never hurt anyone's chances.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Come on, girl. Tell me about our new country cottage. Is it bigger or smaller than Versailles?
You haven't forgotten.
I know. Shopping. I'll get it. Hello. How did you get this number? What? No, tonight, no. No, it's impossible. Doctor's orders. No, I am interested. Yes. Yeah, well, just tell me where. Yes. Yeah, I'll try. Look to...
Who's that?
Nathaniel Mustard. Cheers.
Who's he? Was that something out of the Bible?
He's the bloke we think set up those demonstrations.
He wants to meet me.
You going to?
Yeah, it could be useful.
Hello, Jack.
Why are you in?
We got so behind, I've got to catch up.
How long are you going to be? I want to see the cricket.
I'll just finish this tape, all right?
Give me a nod when you leave, huh?
Will do.
Which precludes Carl Silman from exerting any pressure. Not that we will. Taken into account then, can be transferred into a new trust.
You're a murderer! You're nothing but a bloody murderer! If it weren't for you, we'd be alive today!
For God's sake, Mrs. What I'm saying is that even if the affair...
Do you like Persians?
They're called Iranians now, I think, dear.
No, Persian carpets. Because those three we saw today, I think they'd look right in a new house. I wonder if they'd be delivered in time. For the housewarming? Should we invite the commissioner?
The commissioner? To a party given by a superintendent?
Well, why the hell not? It'll be the best damn party old Commissioner Plodd's ever been to.
Millie, have you ever heard of Veblen?
The racing driver?
The philosopher. He wrote a seminal book called The Theory of the Leisure Class. It was about you, Millie. Or people like you.
Even poor people have parties.
Not with marquees and caterers and guest lists of hundreds.
But I'd handle everything. Now, we've never had a proper party, and it'd be a birthday party for you. And a housewarming for the little Versailles.
It's only 6 weeks to my birthday.
But I'd make it. You'll see.
Millie, the legal formalities of...
Bullshit! Lance, I'm rich. Remember?
Anyway, I couldn't commit myself. My work must come first.
Oh, I understand. The higher you get, the bigger the load you carry. I know that. So don't promise anything, all right? I'm going to give a great party. If you can turn up for a drink, well, we'd all love to see you. Hello? Yes, just a moment. Sergeant Valentine?
It's Mrs. Novotny, sir. Charles Makepeace's secretary. She's found something. Sounds worth a visit. Yes, sir, on my way. Could someone call me up Alpha 8? I want to go to Car Silman. I'll wait downstairs.
Transferred into a new trust.
You're a murderer! You're nothing but a bloody murderer! If it weren't for you, we'd be alive today!
For God's sake, Mrs. What I'm saying is that even if they're available...
Do you know who that was?
No.
When was the recording made, do you know?
Yes, it was the tape he was using the day he died.
I see. Well, if you'd let me have the tape, Mrs. Novotny, we'll get it over to our acoustics lab.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
I thought you might like this. You heard the name, the beginning of the name. Well, I've made a computer list of all clients and contacts whose names begin with T.
Thank you, Mrs. Novotny.
I wish you'd told me what you were doing. I mean, something might have happened to you.
I told you nothing happened. He never showed up. There's never any bloody room in here.
Don't change the subject. Look, it's getting dangerous.
Where are
Look
my
at you.
cigarettes? Where are my cigarettes?
They're probably where you left them.
Where you left them, you mean?
Look, I just wish you wouldn't play detective.
Well, I want to find out who did this to me, all right?
Oh, grow up.
Sure.
We should take another day off.
All right.
Couldn't you get the American to hold the fort till tomorrow?
No, I can't. He's useless. Let me have a look at the log for Tuesday, the 15th of June, the day Makepeace died.
Mr. Maitland, do you want this back, or shall I keep it?
Any luck?
Yes. I said I was calling from the DHSS, and it worked. I got through to Fane and Browning's personnel department, and you were right, Mr. Maitland. They confirmed that Mr. Mustard is a former employee of theirs. He took early retirement 2 years ago.
What about his van? Did the police trace it?
Tricky number plates. Now, what about this? The past performance of Fane and Browning does not justify the current market price, which will fall substantially if our offer lapses.
Well, do you want me to stay on this evening and type up the offer document?
Yeah, if you could, Diana, thank you. We would then drastically reduce our own holding. We do not consider the shares to be worth our offer price.
Unless under our control.
Unless we take control. Yeah.
So you'll let me have a draft of the offer document tomorrow morning?
It's your first thing. I want to Norfolk, see if I can find this fellow Mustard.
Norfolk? What part of Norfolk?
North Delhi.
Dawley. Local pronunciation. It's a couple of miles north of Tyndall's Pond.
What's that?
Don't you remember? A couple of years back, terrible stink. It's an industrial waste dump. A bog of toxic chemicals. They say it's the worst in Europe, and it'll be about 20 years before they can reclaim the area. Thank you, Richards. My moustache.
The entire stock of assets taken into account then can be transferred into a new trust.
You're a murderer! You're nothing but a bloody murderer! If it weren't for you, we'd be alive today!
For God's sake, Mr.
What the hell was that?
Did you recognize the voice, sir?
No.
A woman's voice. Hysterical. You may have heard it before in a calmer mood.
I don't think so. I'll listen to it again.
Sorry.
Assets taken into account then can be transferred into a new trust.
You're a murderer! You're nothing but a bloody murderer! If it weren't for you, we'd be alive today!
For God's sake, Mrs. What?
No. No, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
This is a list of the bank's clients whose names begin with the initial T. Is there anyone on that list who you think may have borne Charles Makepeace a grudge? We only have the one syllable. Our acoustic lab thinks the name might be something like Timpson or Tinley. Does that name ring any bells with you, sir?
Without checking the records, I really couldn't say, Army.
Right. Thank you for your time, Mr. Field.
It's a pleasure. Sorry I couldn't have been more help. I'll tell you what, though. Something to do with Charles, but I was talking to one of our clients this morning, and he mentioned this place up in Norfolk. It's a chemical waste dump by the name of Tyndall's Pond.
Now, I want to speak to Dan Maitland, please. Dan Maitland.
Oh, splendid. Could you bring it up? Right.
Wow, John! Well, I wasn't expecting you, but you're welcome. This is Phyllis Davenport Wright.
Right, Davenport.
That's right, Davenport Wright.
That shareholder's file.
Oh, it's in my briefcase. If you'd have phoned, I would have brought it around.
I've been phoning for the last 2 hours. I can't get any sense out of these silly bastards. I want that file.
It's in the boot of my car.
Those papers are highly confidential. They should never have left the building.
Come on, this is business. Over. All right, look, I'm sorry. Why don't I throw on some clothes and I'll get it for you. I wasn't too desperate to get laid, but Phyllis is merely an easy lay. She's an inescapable one.
I don't care how many tarts you screw.
Well, I do. And I don't consider that any of your goddamn business.
Oh, for God's sakes, removing confidential papers, having sex romps in the middle of what should be a working day.
It is a working day. I threw a party for dear old Marty Gannett, who was at Westminster with me. And dear old Marty, who can't control his bladder, now controls Granite. And Granite, as you doubtless know, is a substantial shareholder in Fane and Browning. Excuse me.
Silly old man. And I thought he was just living it up.
This is the complete rundown from the Department of Environment.
Put it in a nutshell for me, Sergeant.
Tyndall's Pond got its name from the haulage firm of Charles Tyndall, which was prosecuted for illegal dumping and closed down 5 years ago. Its founder and managing director were sent to prison, and the company was fined.
What's the connection with Makepeace?
Officially, none. But according to my sources...
Get on with it, Sergeant.
It seems that Makepeace on holiday in Norfolk noticed a Tyndall lorry dumping illegally. He tipped off the police and they staked out the area. He was warned by the department to keep it quiet for fear of publicity. Obviously, it got out somehow.
So the voice on the tape may have been Charles Tyndall's wife. Why would she call him a murderer?
Possibly, sir, because Tyndall hanged himself in Parkhurst 2 years ago.
In respect of his holding of ordinary stock unit. Yours sincerely, Will you bleep Dan Maitland and tell him to come in here right away?
He's playing tennis.
He's what?
Sorry, I thought you knew. Sir Max has given him permission to practice whenever he wants.
Where's he playing?
Do you mind? I'd like a word.
What's the problem? What do you mean, what's the problem? What do you call this? Work?
Come again?
I need you in the office. I'm not putzing around out here.
I'll be ready in a couple of minutes.
You better be. Hey.
I didn't know you were a tennis fan. Don't look so alarmed. I'm not chasing you.
I thought we agreed that we weren't going to meet here.
Oh, for God's sake. We were conspiring to rob the Bank of England, not just having a little affair.
It's bloody silly. Don't.
Buy a beer? Cheers. Catch you later.
You haven't got time for a beer. I'll see you in the office if you can make it.
Hi. Who are you?
I'm Kate McCrenny.
Friend of John's?
No. We've met professionally. I'm a stockbroker.
Oh, I'm Dan Maitland. Pleased to meet you.
You've joined Carson?
That's right. Have my dinner tonight.
You don't waste any time, do you?
You know, it seems to me, Maitland, that you don't give a damn about banking.
You know, on Wall Street we have a saying. The battle's often won when you're having fun. So I wouldn't jump to any conclusions. Yeah, you ought to loosen up. You'll end up just like my dad, at a coronary by the time he was 40.
Thank you for your concern. I want you to go over those offer documents again. Check them out for me. Sir Max thinks I've gone over the top. He wants to see me at 3 o'clock this afternoon, so I would appreciate it if you could get a move on.
No problem.
You seeing that girl?
Who?
Detective Thorne.
Superintendent Thorne and Sergeant Valentine.
Please sit down, gentlemen.
Thank you. It's very good of you to see us at such short notice, Mr. Mandel.
Tell me what I can do for you.
You worked for a Mr. Charles Tyndall before you joined the Department of Environment, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Did you tell Mrs. Tyndall that the information which led to her husband's conviction came from a Mr. Charles Makepeace of Carsilman?
I assume you're jesting, Superintendent.
I am perfectly serious, Mr. Mandeville. Someone told her, and you, in your position as Deputy Head of Industrial Pollution, were in a position to do so.
And risk my job, my career, for a few £100? I take it you're suggesting I was bribed.
No, not necessarily. Mr. Mandeville, I cannot promise that this rumor might not reach your head of department. But I'm not, at the moment, especially interested in you. I'm conducting a murder inquiry.
A murder? I informed Mr. Tyndall, not his wife.
Why?
Superintendent, I have a degree in geography and another in law.
Very impressive, sir.
Yes, and with these impressive qualifications, the only job I was offered in 3 years searching was primary school teaching. Then Mr. Tyndall took me on.
In personnel, I believe.
Initially, but with the understanding that I would rise if I proved my worth. He kept his word, and within a year I was made head of the contracts department. When I was offered the job here, he wrote me an excellent letter of recommendation.
So you had reason to be grateful to him?
I also believed what he said.
What was that?
He maintained that he was the victim of a miscarriage of justice. That his lorries were dumping illegally because the drivers were cutting corners, not on his instructions. He asked me for the name of the man who shopped him because he thought it might help him make a better defense. In the event, his solicitors decided against using the information.
I see. Well, thank you, Mr. Mandeville, for your cooperation.
Not at all.
Do you happen to know the current whereabouts of Mrs. Tyndall?
Yes, of course. It's Blackheath.
No. No, not for a year now.
Oh? I didn't know. In that case, I have no idea.
Right. I'm off.
You won't try any heroics, will you?
We tried all that last night. I'll see you.
What have we got here? Come along. Fee, fire, foe, foul, my smell the blood of an Englishman. Hey, you, what are you doing in there? Come on, come on, out you come. No, come on, out. Daddy's got to go in a hurry. Come on.
Come on, Evie, darling. It's not a pleasure trip.
Up you come. That's it, good one.
Well, it will be a pleasure trip for me.
Oh, I know. But come on, darling. Come on, Daddy's got to go.
It's not fair.
Oh, I know it's not. Next time, give Daddy a kiss. Go on, go upstairs, have your breakfast. Go off in a minute, OK?
What are you going to do tonight? Anyone coming over?
No? Why?
No, nothing. Anything good on the box?
Oh, yes, there's the second part of that documentary.
What, the one where they take all your lungs out and then your liver?
Yeah, that's the one.
Great.
Pity, really, because
Could have watched it together.
I will. Don't forget to look up.
Will you be careful? Hmm?
Yeah. Is Mr. Mustard at home, please?
He's not in.
When will he be back?
He says he's coming in at 5 for his tea.
Are you Mrs. Mustard?
No, of course not. I'm his housekeeper. Everybody in the village knows that.
Is there no way I could contact Mr. Mustard before 5?
I'm afraid not. He's out praying with the sick.
Sick? There can't be that many sick in such a small village, can there?
He goes to the sick in all the villages round about. Brings comfort to the dying. He's more respected round here than the vicar.
Oh, well, that's really excellent. Well, I'll come back at 5 o'clock. All right?
Morning.
Fill her up, please. Do you know a place called Tyndall's Pond around here?
What's that, then?
It's a dump. You know, chemical products, waste, that kind of thing.
Ah, the stinking bog. You can't get in there. There's a big fence round it. 2 boys climbed in there last year. Nearly died from the stink. It's like poison gas here, see?
Where is it?
You gotta go 4, 5 miles, might be a little more, along this road. You turn left till you come to a track. You'd be best walking from there.
How far along is that, then?
Don't rightly know. Never been there myself. That'll be £9.50.
What cards do you take?